Hey everybody, welcome to the 30th episode of the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. This is my closet full of all the stuff I love, and today I want to look once again at the subject of Noir, as you can see from my Noir City Film Festival t-shirt. But this time, Noir through the lens of photography. We're going to look at a biography, a film, and a wonderful coffee table book. This is a biography called Flash, The Making of Oji the Famous. It's by Christopher Bonanos. And this is the biography of this gentleman you see here on the cover, Arthur Felig, who was a Russian immigrant at a very young age and was based in New York City. And he created this persona known as Oji. And he became basically a crime photographer in New York City. And think of The Godfather. If you remember that scene where Pacino kills the police chief and one of the mafia dons in the Italian restaurant, and then after that there's a montage of different photos. That's kind of a Oji type of photo. We're talking about the 30s and 40s mainly, and he often arrived at the crime scene even before the police did. It helped to have a police radio in his car on at all times. And that's one reason, so the story goes, they called him Ouija, like a Ouija board, was able to tell the future. One of his philosophies is that gangsters, the real known gangsters like Dutch Schultz and people like that, would always show their faces in photos. They wouldn't hide their faces. Hiding your face is strictly an amateur move. I'm going to show you a couple of really good photos from this book. This is a pretty famous photo that Ouija took of somebody who was killed in Little Italy in New York. And one thing that people accused Ouija of was sort of posing the bodies a little bit. So he might move an arm, he might move the person's hat. In fact, he even said at one point that, put the guy's hat on or put the guy's hat over here because that's what people want to see. They want to see the hat in the story. And this is the car that Ouija often worked out of. Now, one of the myths with that was that he had a dark room actually in this car, but that's not true. But he did have plenty of camera gear, all kinds of equipment, and of course, extra boxes of cigars. Now, this is one of Ouija's most famous photos. This is in Brooklyn in 1939, and this was a fire in a tenement house. And when he brought this photo to his editors, the editors said, well, where's the fire? I don't see the fire. And Ouija's take on this was, well, you've seen one building on fire, you've seen them all. So instead, he took the approach of focusing on the people's reactions. And I think that makes for a much more compelling photograph. So this is a good, solid biography if you want to know more about the life of Oji the Famous. I would have preferred a more of a coffee table type book or an art book. You can see it's basic newsprint. There are not a whole lot of photos in here, but I know obviously some of his most famous ones. You can get this. This is about 370 pages. You can get this I paid about $10 for it. The retail is $32, but you can get it for cheaper than that, maybe used, and also you can get it through your public library. Now this is a film called The Public Eye. It's from 1992, and Joe Pesci is playing really Ouija, but they don't call him that. Instead of calling him Ouija the Famous, he's a character that goes by the name of the Great Barzini. But it's definitely Ouija. He's got the same clothing that Ouija wore, the cigar. He's a Russian immigrant. That's his backstory. He stamps his photos just like Ouija did, and he works out of his car exactly like that photo I showed you. In fact, Ouija's actual photos are used in this film at certain points. And just like Ouija did, sometimes he poses the dead bodies, he places the hats in certain areas. And this is a really good, solid neo-noir. It captures New York City really well in the 1940s. with the neon, the cars, the clubs, the wardrobe. And the plot is a pretty basic one for a noir. It involves the mob, crooked cops, and crooked politicians, and overshadowing everything is World War II. So this is a good, solid choice. You can find this one, Barbara Hershey, Joe Pesci, in The Public Eye. And finally, I want to show you this nice, large coffee table size book. It's called Dark City, The Real Los Angeles Noir. It's by Jim Heimann. This is one of those Taschen books that they specialize in these large, beautiful coffee table books. It's about 500 pages. It's not cheap. The full price is $100. Sometimes they have half price sales. That's when I got this for 50 bucks. But this is a 6-pound book. And it's really about the seamy side of quote-unquote glamorous Los Angeles. So now we're shifting from New York to Los Angeles noir. And there's plenty of photos throughout this thing of strip clubs, nightclubs, murder scenes, drug busts, those dance marathons, illegal gambling houses, illegal liquor clubs like speakeasies, health gurus, religious gurus, all kinds of people living on the seamy edges of society. So let's take a look at the table of contents. And we open this up from this nice cardboard slipcover, and that's one of the best photos in the book. Actually, it looks like it came right out of a film noir. This is the LA River where the detectives found a body, and there's several photos in here of detectives finding bodies in various places, including in closets and in trunks, and in riverbeds, and along the roadside as well. So let's take a look at the table of contents. First of all, there's the appropriate cover, and it's these that have real, this is a photograph, and you can see there's real bullet holes in there. And it's a photograph of a crime scene, and there's a policeman and some onlookers looking through the bullet holes at the crime scene. And it's Dark City, the real Los Angeles noir. And there we have the table of contents. So after a brief introduction, we have Down These Mean Streets, showing various streets in LA. Murder and Mayhem, that's where you see a lot of crime photography. Glamourland, this focuses more on the Hollywood and celebrity aspect in some of those crazy stories. Kooks, Crackpots, and Salvation. Salvation is where they get into the some of the weird churches that popped up in various areas. Headline Crime, that's where you have some of the famous crimes like the Black Dahlia and the Sleepy Lagoon murders. Crime and Corruption, and then the appendices, which I'll get to in a minute. Now, one interesting part of this book is in every chapter they have this little reproduction of a magazine that came out during that time. So for example, this one is a True Detective magazine, and these look like the reproductions of the actual pages from True Detective, showing different crimes. And each chapter has a different magazine. I have to be careful what pages I show you because some of them are inappropriate for YouTube. You'll also see some location shots from various film noirs as well, and some rather graphic shots of murders, body parts, and shots taken at the morgue. Here's a pose shot of Mickey Cohen taken in 1953, famous gangster. And just like Ouija said, you know, the famous gangsters, they'll show their face. Look out, he's almost proud of his infamy and his notoriety. So he's sitting in this chair, and behind him are all the headlines with his name in them and of all the crazy things that he did. There are also some interesting photos of drug busts. Here's one from 1946, and this is a bunch of marijuana plants that they found in one residence. And the police are showing this in their precinct. And notice he conveniently put the marijuana sign up on top there. And here are two interesting shots for all you film noir fans. Here's Robert Mitchum, and this is in 1949 when he was awaiting trial for marijuana possession. And then after a 50-day sentence, he's standing in front of the Hall of Justice and showing that he's glad to be out and breathing some fresh air again. But this is a very well done book. Lots of photographs. It's really an art book. And all the captions explaining just what you're seeing. And like I said, some of it's a little graphic, so beware of that. And it captures a lot of drama and a lot of the history of LA. Some of it quite surprising. Now in the appendices of this book, you'll see a selection of different film noirs and a description of each one that all take place in Los Angeles. And then along with that, you also have some books like Day of the Locusts and They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And The Big Sleep and Mildred Pierce that were also based in Los Angeles. So there's a look at noir as seen through the lens of photography, New York and Los Angeles. Film, biography, nice coffee table book. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave it a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Feel free to leave a comment or a suggestion. Subscribe would be great. And feel free to also share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, I want to thank you for watching this, and I will see you on episode number 31.